Hi, my name is Joseph Alai. Welcome to my channel. And today I want to talk about how all things are possible through the use of your imagination and manifestation as a whole. The reason I've come up with this topic is because over the last couple of months, I've been kind of solely fixed on the concept of manifestation and how it is absolutely not only bizarre, but it's magic. And for most individuals, especially myself, I'll keep it about myself, before manifestation came to pass in my life, I had a lot of struggles and a lot of limitations. And by the concepts of the world, there would only be a certain goal that I could reach logically, meaning there are tons of limitations all throughout the world. And I would always make my judgments or take actions based on what I thought was possible from a limited mind. But over the course of nearly a decade or a little bit more, I've come to find that this is not really so. And so I want to talk a little bit about what is possible with manifestation and how to do it. So first, before we jump into this, please hit the like button. It does something to the algorithm from which those who would not normally be able to see this video will be able to see it. And hit the subscribe and bell icon to stay tuned for way more laser focused, systematic manifestation tutorials. So let's just get into it then. I talked a little bit about just previously how we used to, or how I used to live from a very limited point of view. So the way that I was raised was on scarcity and fear. So I was told that it would be extremely hard work and luck if I ever wanted to amount to anything in this world. I also had the limitations of my mother and my father and everyone around me, and I'm sure you can relate to this as well, about what is possible to accomplish, what is not possible to accomplish, and what ways and means, the ways that we're taught, can we use to essentially accomplish them, right? So for me as a young man or even a child, I was filled with fear. I was in a, not all the time, but in a very rough situation, not knowing what to do, how to fit in, how to get the things that I want. There's a very big world out there, and I had no idea that I was actually the one controlling it, right? Now, that's a very bold statement, and that's a statement that's not really for beginners even in this, but nevertheless, the truth is the truth. And so I ran into trouble after trouble after trouble in my life. I really basically ended up broke, nearly homeless or homeless at times, addicted to drugs, and obsessed over certain things and not being able to get out of it. But at the age of around 21 and 22 is when I stumbled upon the law that Neville Goddard talks about. He calls it the law. And the way that happened was I ended up getting into a Bible study or a Bible group, and that is where I essentially learned the ins and outs of Scripture, which is like the Greek and the Hebrew and the Bible in general. But what I was told there is that miracles were possible now, that it's not something that ended in the time of basically 2,000 years ago. Now, for me personally, I could have cared less about any of this stuff in the sense of I didn't believe or disbelieve in anything having to do with God or a higher power or the Bible. But at the time, my back was completely against the wall. I had completely run out of options as I had kept getting arrested. I kept getting in trouble, being trapped, and I was absolutely miserable. I had no power, completely powerless in this world. But from that time forward, when I was taught basically how to use prayer to manifest, right? I didn't really know at the time what manifesting was. Actually, I had no idea. But nevertheless, I began to see certain things changing in my world as it relates to what was in the contents of my mind. And then I started to realize that my negative thinking, my limited thoughts, my perception of myself and the world was what was actually causing the world to act in its certain way. And then a feedback loop was essentially set into motion because whatever I thought was true, and then I just believed it further, and that continued on and on and on. But as I began to change my thoughts and dig into certain materials and test it systematically, that is when I began to see the world open up and change. And it was extremely shocking to me when I began to see more and more things change in the world after I did systematic tests of how to manifest what I wanted, right? Of putting this all to the test. Now for me, I have a very logical mind. In college, I was computer scientist, mathematics, and physics. Those were my majors. And so I constantly needed to find answers, but it all had to logically make sense. So to base things off of what other people told me, such as, there's a God or we have control over this world, perhaps I had enough sense to put it to the test, but I would never believe what anyone was telling me unless I, for myself, tested it and received the results over and over again. So over 10 years, I've conducted tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of tests. And so when I say that I have tested this time and time again, that I've seen these results tens of thousands of times or more, I'm not exaggerating. That is absolutely true. And lately, it's been interesting to me. I want to talk about a couple stories about how this can change not only your external world, but also internal. It can change your personality. It can change your physical health. It can change other people. But so specifically, lately, this is very interesting, is lately I've had something that has been happening to me over the past probably 5 or even 6 years, which is something that I had no idea how to resolve, no idea what it was in the first place, but it kept happening. And what was happening was every few months, I would become exhausted. I would be unable to have any energy. I wouldn't be sleeping properly. When I would sleep many hours, only to wake up completely exhausted. I felt like there's a fog behind my eyes, and it would last anywhere between weeks and months. And I would have no motivation, no energy, no excitement, nothing. And really for me, it had become hopeless, right? It had led to a lot of downfalls, losing a lot of things, and I had zero clue what it was. But the way that manifestation works is that we can basically do anything that would be possible in general. So if you've ever heard of anyone being healed of something, if you've ever heard of someone getting rich, if you've ever heard of people getting raises or going on vacation, anything that you could ever believe is possible is actually possible through your imagination. And so this last time when this happened, which is why I was off of YouTube for the last few months, I decided to put manifestation to the test to figure out what it was that was wrong and how to resolve it. Well, actually phrased in a different way, I imagined myself as being whole. I imagined myself as having energy. I imagined myself as being motivated and excited and being not only back to my normal self, but better than that person before. And so what I began to do is writing down different statements from the point of view of a person who is whole, who is excited, who is motivated, who is better than the person they were yesterday or the day before or weeks before or months before. And as I began to do that, things started to change in my world. Now, it was probably a week later after I started writing down statements, like I said, from the point of view of someone who already has that health that they desire. So such as statements like, I am extremely motivated, I feel better than ever, I am very excited, my mind is clear, I have clarity in my mind. And so a week later, I began to have random conversations with people where they would bring up, basically randomly, different concepts of what it is that's possibly wrong with me. And so someone brought up certain herbal remedies, but they weren't talking about what was going on with me specifically. They were just asking if I was ever into, herbal remedies for things. This gave me the idea to go online and research, as I had 1,000 times before at least, different remedies for different things. And then another conversation with someone, they brought up a specific thing called adrenal fatigue, right? Or basically burnout, right? Which is what I had been typing in. Well, nevertheless, I had found an herb randomly, or as a root, and I just purchased it. I didn't even really read much about it. I just did it. I was so exhausted, I didn't read anything about it. As it came, I looked on the bottle and it says it treats adrenal fatigue, right? Now, interestingly enough, I didn't know if that's what it was. I didn't go to any doctor. Doctors just said I needed to rest. But I started taking it. Within 2 days, my exhaustion was cut in half. Within 3 days, it was completely gone. Now, within 2 weeks after, I'm feeling extremely vitalized. I have energy, I'm excited, I'm working, I'm making this video for you. So that manifestation came not in a rapid random healing, like a miraculous healing, but a chain of events which brought my attention to specific things, which in the end led me to a specific root that's been used thousands of years, and then it healed me completely. So that is one of the ways in which manifestation works. Now, why didn't I think of this before? I don't know. It just never came to my attention, or I never had the full desire to do it before. But the instant I put manifestation into practice is when it began to happen. And so the way, just to be clear, that I did that is always imagine from the end. Now, it doesn't always mean that we have to visualize. It doesn't mean that we have to use affirmations. It doesn't mean we have to write something down. In this case, we utilize one facet or aspect of our imagination, which I chose to be writing things down. I would highly recommend you checking out my video on the list method if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's basically something I randomly discovered a couple of years ago that I've been using ever since. And it's basically writing things down in the tense as if you've already received it. And when you do that, it plants a seed, an imaginal seed, and the bridge of incidents will begin to unfold to bring you towards that end. So another thing I want to talk about as far as all things are possible is something simple, something awesome though. One of my friends, I had a call with her the other day, and she explained to me how she had manifested $200. She basically said that in her mind, she said to herself a few times that she received cash gifts. An hour and a half later, she ended up walking into a client's business, and he claimed that he owed her money from a previous time. She was trying to consider or think about her giving this man the product, but she couldn't remember it. Nevertheless, ultimately, he ended up giving her $200 cash, but it was for a product that she didn't even pay for. So that would be considered a cash gift. Now, the thing about manifestation and how it can change you in many different ways is it can control the type of people in your life. It can control the people that you run into, how they treat you, how you act in general. And so, interestingly enough, I ended up, after I talked to her, in my mind saying to myself that the people in my life, I forget exactly how I said it, but it was something to the effect of, there are people in my life who are honest and contribute to my success. Now that night as well, I was talking about the VIP program with one of my friends, and we have a Discord community there, which is very active, very awesome. But during the time that I was gone, there's a lot of things that I had not caught up with. And so I was contemplating to myself, how could I get in and clear out some of that stuff? Now, this is very interesting because other people are absolutely influenced by the things that you imagine. Just as that man was influenced to give $200 to my friend. And in this way, an interesting thing happened. Within 24 hours of me saying those statements 3 times in my mind about I have only honest people that contribute to my success in my mind. I repeated it 3 times loud and clear in my mind. And within 24 hours, someone had hacked into the server, removed me and a bunch of other people from the VIP program, and it was almost completely gone. But also, the way that it happened was that as it was getting hacked and removed, I was able to copy everything down, and the moment everything was finished, that is when I was removed from the server, which is just, in a way, it's perfect. Because my idea or intention was to somehow have a clean slate. But not only that, the person who had hacked it, I knew him personally, someone who used to associate with me, and whatever happened, it doesn't matter. I set that into motion, and that person not only hacked into it, but then removed, like he'll never be around ever again. And so with that said, the littlest thoughts, the littlest commands can have a huge impact on the way that the world works. And so that is why it is so important to monitor and control and deliberately choose your thoughts, your inner commands, the things that you write down, the things that you daydream about. They will consistently and continuously manifest in your world. And so I just want to give you clear-cut instructions real quick on how to get whatever you want. I have used manifestation to go from a position of being hopeless, addicted, into a position where I have freedom, where I have some wealth, where I have options in this world. That is what I desired most. And through visualization, through writing things down, I've become a completely different person. If you would have known me maybe even two years ago, I'd be different than where I was a year ago and from today, and on, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Utilizing methods of manifestation, I've completely changed my social circle. I've manifested moving to San Diego in the exact places that I have imagined, specifically, which I talk a lot about these in the videos that I've already put on YouTube. I've launched a successful business, and so essentially manifestation can be used to get whatever you want. I've seen people be healed in a miraculous way. I've seen people's personalities completely change. I've helped other people get out of poverty, get out of emotional distress. There's been physical changes. I've manifested myself losing weight within a month, gaining weight within a month, putting on muscle within a month. Anything that you can possibly conceive, beside even the mystical aside, is absolutely possible. And so the way to do this is to consciously configure an end scene, right? From the perspective of the person who already has what you want. So you contemplate, what would I be doing? Or what would I be saying if I was already that person? Now, when I say that person, I mean the person with your desire fulfilled. Do you want to be married? Do you want to have wealth? Do you want to have a business? Do you want other people to be happy? Do you want wealth to come in? Do you want the way that people treat you to change? You construct a specific scene from the point of view of that person. So if I wanted to be married, you could imagine yourself after the wedding, or on a honeymoon, or with a wedding ring. These scenes specifically, each of those individually would imply that you are married. If you wanted money, perhaps doing some things that you would be doing with that money, or having the car that you want, or going on vacation, or the house, or your bank account. You create that scene from the point of view of the person that already has it. And when you do that, you imagine yourself as that person, which means in your imagination, you perceive yourself through your own eyes in that scene, acting out what you would be doing if you were already that person. And you do that, once you can play the scene out in your imagination, you repeat it in your mind in that same sitting over and over and over until it becomes natural. Now, at first, your mind will probably wander around. You may not be able to control your thoughts. This will come easier in time, but do not stop until you get that natural representation of the end result. And after you do that, you can either let go or keep doing it until you fall asleep. The best way is to fall asleep doing it. Otherwise, keep doing it and then let it go until it feels natural, until you feel fulfilled in that, right? So the idea is to emulate in truth the end result until it feels natural. Now, a couple other short techniques are writing things down from the point of view as if you've already received it. This is scripting or making lists. Also, affirming to yourself in your mind loudly and clearly from the point of view of the person who already has what you want. I am married, I am wealthy, I received a raise at my job. Whatever the case is, you take those statements and you repeat them in your mind, or you write them down, or you create a journal entry from the future, always from the point of view of the person that already has it. And then you repeat it over and over until it feels good, or it feels natural, or you can just get it a continuous loop, and then you can stop to do it after that. And whether it takes a day, a week, a month, a year, could be instant. You will watch. There will be an invisible bridge that appears that you will have no idea what is set up, but you will be drawn to that end. You will make it to that end. So your whole job as a manifester is to control your thoughts and direct them towards your end. And if you can do that, you will completely change your life, and if you want, everyone else's lives around you. So I hope this is a little cool story about where I've been at and what I've been thinking lately. I hope that this was helpful in teaching you what you can accomplish. It could be anything that you want. Just do it. Just create that end scene. So put it to the test. Track your results. I have 10 years worth of results. And with that, I have full faith. It's not even faith. It's knowing with all those systematic tests. So do that yourself. And watch my videos on testing it as well. So definitely like this video, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon if you want more very systematic methods on how to manifest whatever you want, to copy the contents of your mind on the screen of space, and stay tuned for more. Thank you so much for watching.